When the human survival instincts kicked in, amazing things can happen. Humans will stop at nothing to triumph over situations that threaten their lives. Creativity, endurance, and patience can turn a victim into a survivor under the right conditions. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at 3 stories of men who survived harrowing incidents at sea. Harrison Ekeene. For Harrison Ekeene, a 29-year-old Nigerian cook, small details and extreme luck turned a would-be tragic ending into a survival story. May 26, 2013 was just another day on the job for Ekeene. He was the resident chef on AHT Jaskin 4, a tugboat that was transporting a team of 12 men, who were attempting to stabilise an oil tanker off the coast of Nigeria. While the team took note of the rough Atlantic waves they were facing, they underestimated the power of them until it was too late. The boat capsized and started to sink at 4:50 AM when Ekeene was using the bathroom. He saw water suddenly rush into the room, and he instantly reacted, opening the door fast enough to avoid entrapment. Soon, the boat started to descend, and gravity pulled Ekeene to the other side of the boat, into the officer's bathroom. Since the boat was upside down, the toilet was above him, and he hung to it to keep his head above water. His chances of survival appeared slim. When the boat reached the ocean floor, Ekeene was able to swim into a bedroom, where he made a raft out of panels he tore off the wall. This allowed him to access an air bubble, and he remained there for 60 hours. His experience was extraordinarily horrifying. All the other crewmen had perished, and he could sense their bodies nearby based on the smell and the sound of fish eating them. Despite the air bubble and raft, Ekeene's survival was uncertain at best. He had no way to know when a dive team would examine the sunken ship. It was pitch black, and the freezing cold water created a hypothermia risk. According to National Geographic, someone trapped in Ekeene's conditions would only have 56 hours until carbon dioxide toxicity would set in. He also faced limited oxygen supply and no access to food or drinkable water. Furthermore, the increased air pressure saturated his blood with nitrogen. Even with this whole list of threats to his survival, he pulled through for almost 3 days before he heard the sounds of a rescue team above. The team expected to only recover dead bodies, but Ekeene was there hammering the side of the boat. Suddenly, his dark bedroom was lit up by a diver's light. Though it became apparent that he was actually going to get rescued, it wasn't as simple as some might think. Ekeene couldn't immediately come to the surface with the divers because he needed to decompress the surface air pressure. The divers first took him to a transfer capsule that was at the same pressure as the bottom of the sea. This way, the group could return to the surface without experiencing changes in pressure from their original location. At the surface, the group entered through a tunnel into a decompression chamber. The chamber allowed them to adjust to normal pressure levels gradually. Even after taking the science into consideration, Ekeene's survival is miraculous. Even though Ekeene was able to return to a normal way of life, it was permanently changed. When discussing the effects on his experience on his daily life, Ekeene commented, "When I'm at home, sometimes it feels like the bed is sinking. I think I'm still at sea again. I jump up and I scream. I don't know what stops the water from filling that room." Another effect of his extraordinary survival is the considerable fame it earned him. His rescue was caught on camera and went viral internationally. The video shows Ekeene's hand reaching out to the divers in the dark and captures their initial shock to find a man alive. Ekeene then fully comes into frame, and the rest of the video shows the initial stages of the rescue. Clearly, this popular video alerted many to the resiliency of the human body and spirit. Poon Lim. It's impressive enough to survive as a castaway adrift at sea for a few days, but to survive for 133 days is a miraculous display of resiliency. This achievement belongs to Poon Lim, a true warrior who prevailed with all the odds stacked against him. In 1942, Poon Lim was serving in World War II as a steward on the SS Ben Lomond, British merchant ship, when a German U-boat came and sank it with a torpedo. Out of the 55 crew members, 11 were saved by other ships. The majority of the remaining crew sank with the ship, but Lim had a different story. Lim wasn't able to swim, but he was able to find a life jacket. He jumped into the ocean and swam for 2 hours before finding an 8x8 wooden raft. Luckily, it had some survival rations that Lim might not have survived without. The rations included 2 tins of dried biscuits, 40 litres of water, sugar cubes, chocolate, 2 smoking pots, an electric torch, and some flares. Because Lim couldn't swim, he made sure to tie his wrist to the raft with a rope in case he fell off in his sleep. This was only one out of many steps that he took to ensure his survival. He used the material of his life jacket to catch and channel rainwater. He made fish hooks out of wire from his electric stove and nails from the wood of the raft. He also made a knife out of a biscuit tin. Lin would lure and catch fish with some success, it seemed. He came across that food wouldn't be a major issue, but one night a storm destroyed his supply of fish and water. The setback was almost an end for him. He no longer succeeded in fishing and water became scarce. As a last resort, he started hunting the birds flying around him. This solved his food problem, and he was also able to drink the bird's blood to satisfy his thirst while waiting for the next rainstorm. The birds originally seemed like a solution, but they ended up creating another deadly problem. The blood from the birds was beginning to attract sharks. The sharks not only offered their own dangers, but scared off his supply of fish as well. Ultimately, he decided his best chance of survival was to use bird meat as bait to catch small sharks. He succeeded in catching one, but had to battle it in his raft with a water jug. He was able to kill it, but not without a lot of effort and some painful injuries. Despite all the victories in his survival efforts, Lim eventually sunk into despair, not believing he would ever be rescued. He later recalled seeing other ships in the distance and planes overhead. He began to think they wouldn't rescue him because he was Chinese. He was unaware of the fact that ships and planes were too far away to see him, but the one plane that did see him aborted a rescue mission due to a storm. But soon Lim realised the colour of the water changing, and he knew he was getting closer to land. Perhaps he didn't need a rescue at all and would drift to land on his own. However, help came his way. 3 fishermen found him and brought him to land. Miraculously, once on land, he was able to walk without any help, despite being malnourished and 20 pounds lighter. He recovered for a month in a Brazilian hospital before returning to Britain. He died in Brooklyn, New York in 1991 at the age of 73. To this day, no one has survived longer than Lim at sea in a life raft, a true testament to this man's extraordinary will. Philip Ashton. Some survival stories don't start with an accident, they start with an escape. This was the case for Philip Ashton, who evaded pirates and survived on an uninhabited island for 16 months in 1723. Ashton was a 19-year-old fisherman who in 1722 set sail to the Grand Banks of Newfoundland to fish for cod as a captain of the schooner Milton. He led 6 other fishermen from Marblehead, Massachusetts. One night in June, while anchored away at Port Roseway, Ashton noticed a boat of men rowing towards them and assumed they were delivering news. After they got closer, he saw the men pull swords and pistols from their clothes and realised their visit was far more sinister. They were pirates. The men demanded Ashton surrender the vessel and his crew. The pirates captured Ashton and brought him aboard the Rebecca, the pirate ship of Edward Lowe. Even for a pirate, Lowe had a bad reputation. He was known to mutilate and decapitate his captives. Despite most sailors being terrified of Lowe, Ashton still refused to cooperate. He wouldn't join the crew of pirates and suffered beatings as a consequence. Ashton remained in the pirates' captivity for almost a year. It wasn't until March 1723, when the pirates landed in an island in the Gulf of Honduras, that Ashton was able to make his escape. Immediately upon arrival on the island, Ashton ran and hid in the jungle. He waited there until the pirates decided to leave without him. he was able to survive on this island, which had no civilization, for over a year. He faced many dangers, including intense heat and alligators. Since he had no weapons, he was limited to fruit as a food source. He eventually met another castaway who gave him a knife and other supplies before leaving and never returning. Ashton used his new tools to kill animals and make fires. In June 1723, after 16 months on the island, 2 English woodcutters canoeing to the island found him in such a weak state that he had to be carried. They therefore took him to their camps. Ashton lived with the woodcutters until the ship, the Diamond, arrived at shore in 1724. It just so happened that the ship was coming from Salem, Massachusetts, which was near the house of Ashton's father. In totality, Philip Ashton spent 2 years, 10 months and 15 days as a captive and castaway before he was able to reach home. So what do you make of these amazing ocean survival stories? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community whilst working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.